I have a confession to make. I'm a professional graphic designer, and I love Squarespace. Welcome to Growing a Fruitful Brand, where we discuss how to create and grow a brand that makes the world a better place for you, your customers, and your employees. I'm Ben Luters, founder and art director of Fruitful Design and Strategy here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is my business partner and brand strategist, Raj Lula. So you may not know why this is such a big confession to make, but there's this big battle out there about what platform you should build your website on. And we're probably going to get a bunch of hate mail for this episode. So Raj, why does this matter?
Well, first of all, your website is the digital front door for your business. So in the same way that we would think about, putting a sign out in front of our business and, making sure that the front area is clean and, that the windows are not broken and they're, we've got good signage everywhere, all that. We think of our websites that way. Mm-hmm. It's the digital front door to our business. Most people have already researched your business. I think it's somewhere between 60 and 80% of the buying decision happens before they ever even talk to you or show up at your business. And so your website could not be a more important piece of digital property. And the battle out there is what platform is best to build your website on. And a lot of graphic designers and web developers will tell you WordPress. And there's a lot of platforms out there like Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, Webflow, and a bunch of other ones. Shopify is another big one for e-commerce. And so, there's a lot of platforms out there besides WordPress, but WordPress is the big dominant player in the market. And so you've got more designers and more developers who gear towards that. But there's also some other reasons why they do that we're going to get into that aren't necessarily for the client's benefit, but are actually for the benefit of the agencies. And that's not bad or nefarious. Everybody's got to have a business model. But just because it's the platform they're most comfortable on doesn't mean that it's the right platform for you, especially not for small business owners. And so there's this stigma out there that's probably distributed by the website builders themselves that WordPress is the better choice for people who, take their business seriously and want to build a serious digital presence. But to be honest, that's not true in most cases. And today we're going to tell you why.
So we've got to admit, it feels weirdly risky to come out so strongly for Squarespace. We've been building on Squarespace for at least 6 or 7 years, maybe even a little longer than that. But we've never made a video or even posted a blog post advocating, in either direction, WordPress or Squarespace. But that was mostly just out of our own, insecurity as designers. If we're honest, we've known for a while that this is the best platform for almost every small business. And we're tired of worrying what, the design community or web development community might think of that opinion.
We love all you guys, but
yeah,
it's okay if we annoy you a little bit because we're going to talk to our customers today.
So instead, we want small businesses to know why they should strongly consider Squarespace as their website platform.
Okay, we have to do the school part right now where we got to do a little definitions of the words. So let's talk about this. Okay, what is WordPress? You'll be forgiven if you remember WordPress or think of WordPress as like a blogging platform from the early 2000s because there's a little bit of confusion here, right? There's WordPress.com, which is the blogging platform that a lot of, the big blogs that turned into books or movies, came from. And then there is WordPress.org, which is an open source free content management system that basically is kind of just a blank slate that you can put code and design onto. Mm-hmm. It's not a website builder in the sense that like you can't just go like you could with Squarespace, go start a website and start plugging in pictures and words and stuff and make it look like a website. You have to know code in order to build a WordPress website, unless you're buying a theme from somebody, and we'll get into that in a little bit. What else? Give us a little more about WordPress.
Yeah, well, like Raj said, because it's open source, this might be a little nerdy deep dive, but that means it's kind of more like Linux, where it's, anyone can create themes or plugins for it. And so that's one of the things that WordPress is known for is all these, custom plugins that so many different vendors create that can help your site do lots of different things.
Yeah, there's plugins for stores and for SEO and even for those really super annoying banners that slide across your website. Don't do that. They're bad. They make people leave your website.
Definitely installed those on some sites a long time ago. Not anymore. So like Raj also said, WordPress has been around a while. It's been around for 20 years, actually. Next week, I think, is their birthday. And 43% of websites on the internet are WordPress. And so, it makes sense that, we might be ruffling some feathers here because literally the majority of the web is WordPress. And one of the things that, us designers love is with the help of developers, they're completely customizable, and you can make WordPress sites do lots of crazy things that maybe WordPress wasn't even meant to do. Raj and I were just chatting right before we started recording that like one of our clients, Fusion Medical Staffing, we actually helped build an intranet for their company, but it's built on WordPress, and so you can have WordPress can do some really, really cool and crazy things, kind of anything you can put your mind to.
Yeah, it's a great place to build a tool, build anything you want to. In fact, there are probably major corporations in our country that have their website on WordPress or some kind of variation of that, and good for them. That's really great. But moving to Squarespace, so if WordPress is open source and totally customizable, has all these plugins and stuff, how's Squarespace different? So Squarespace is a platform that was built by a company, a little bit more like, we think of the founding of Apple or any of those, is essentially, I think it was a guy in a dorm room, not a guy in a garage, but, that idea. It's not open source. And so it's not kind of this nerdy developer thing with, everybody building plugins for it. In fact, there's no need for plugins in most cases. But you can put custom code in it, like for things like PayPal, HubSpot, some of those big things that you need to, do business, and those are available. It is also completely customizable, and go ahead and cue the hate mail right now, because some people will say, no, it's built on themes. Some of that information is a little outdated for people who have hated on Squarespace for a long time, and that's fine. But what they have done now is built a platform that is really completely customizable.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that in a second, because that's something that I'm so excited about, is how Squarespace has changed in the last few years to be even more customizable and even more powerful. But the one thing I will add to what Raj just shared is that, there are people that do create plugins for Squarespace. It's not quite the same, community, but for the most part, like he said, Squarespace is this kind of like all-inclusive kind of experience. And so, I compared, WordPress to kind of the Linux. Maybe Android might be a better way to say that. You can jailbreak your phone and install all these themes, and you can create it just the way that you want it. But then an Apple device, let's say like an iPhone, it kind of comes just the way that it should be. It's been, designed by, designers that know what they're doing, and it's very easy to use, and the experience is just a really, really high-end user experience. And so that's what Squarespace feels like to the average user and to designers like us.
Yeah, you're probably not going to see some cybersecurity expert in the movies using an iPhone, because they like all the control of being on Android. But for most people, an iPhone's a super easy user experience, and that's what people like about it. So let's jump into, we're going to give you 5 reasons today why we love Squarespace, and we think that it is the best platform for most small businesses. And number 1 is that it's easy to use and update. You should not hate having to deal with your website. that is like warning sign number 1. Like if you are currently on a WordPress website and you hate logging in, that's not a good sign. It'd be like, going home and hating dealing with your house. It's It's like, maybe that's a sign you should move. And, it's like, and don't get me wrong, there are times we get there where there's stuff falling apart or, or it's not in the right neighborhood anymore, kind of all the sorts of things that we like. It's just like, this doesn't feel like the one for us anymore. That's okay. But Google prioritizes sites that update a lot. And so if you hate updating your website with, putting new pictures on there, adding event information, that kind of stuff, then Google's actually going to deprioritize you in listings because it's going to assume that your business is dying, and your audience will too. Outdated sites send the wrong message to people, and because it makes it look like you're not open for business if you're still if you're still advertising the Christmas 2017 sale. I know that pandemic math screwed up our brains, but that was a long time ago. So
and I know this is like kind of crazy to think about because, when WordPress was first coming out, it was the easy to use thing compared to having to go in and hand code everything. Yeah. Like having a content management system, like it was the easiest thing to do. And so even for a lot of developers and stuff, and designers, we might be like, no, it's fine. This is still pretty easy to use for us. But if you talk to the average business owner or, someone who may actually have to update a site, because it's so customizable on the back end, it can be really hard to remember how to update, specific parts of, there are some old WordPress sites that we design where every once in a while I'll need to go and update something. And it's like, oh man, how do I do this again? Because it's just, because it was so customizable, it can be easy to break things and stuff. And so that's one of the greatest things about Squarespace is it's just so easy to use and update. And, how I used to sell people on Squarespace sites is I would just show it to them. Yeah. Like show them the back end. Here's your WordPress site that you're on. And then I'd take them to a Squarespace site that I had made or was working on. And it's so beautiful. It just looks like your site. Then you click in the corner and it just reveals a little menu beside it. It's all so visual. You can literally click in and edit text. It's all what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. And it's so beautiful. It's so easy to edit and to change. And so it kind of really sells itself. I think the average person, they're going to enjoy their experience and probably use and change and edit their site much more often if they're on Squarespace versus WordPress.
Yeah, and I want to dig into that idea for just a quick second of Ben mentioned it, a what you see is what you get editor. That's what Squarespace, that's the big selling point of Squarespace is that when you go in, you log into Squarespace and you click edit on your site, you're actually editing on the site. And so you double click into that text box and change the words, you hit save. That's what's on your website immediately when you hit save.
Kind of scary. It might be a little too easy to use. We do talk about that.
A little Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility situation here. But yeah, it's very, very easy to edit. I like to tell people that if you can edit a PowerPoint or a Google Slides deck, then you can edit a Squarespace site competently. You don't need to worry about that. And now again, yeah, that can come with the trade-off of you can mess it up, but the nice thing is just don't hit save if you mess it up, and then you don't have to call anybody to help. And I will say too, this is the area where we'll talk about how there's kind of some economic factors going into why some shops would recommend WordPress over Squarespace. When we design a Squarespace for you, we actually have a business problem that your site is so good and so easy for you to update that you don't need us anymore. Now, some folks will still engage us to do their website maintenance because you just don't have time to do it, or you don't know what to write, or you want a professional designer in your corner, and all that's great. But we've also had a lot of small businesses, a lot of nonprofits that take their Squarespace website and they run for years until they call us again and they want a full refresh because they, it's just like, hey, it's just time for a change. We want to freshen things up. Unlike WordPress, where you have to pay for hosting, and a lot of times, the person who's selling your website has a deal with, WP Engine or Flywheel or whoever, they get a kickback on the hosting, and that's great for them. And they require a lot more maintenance typically. And if you want to change something on there, there are what you see is what you get editors for WordPress, but it's a plugin I think in almost all cases. And so that plugin can break or maybe not work
need
exactly
to be
right.
constantly updated.
It's not designed to be
Right.
used that way out of the box, as it were, as opposed to Squarespace, which is really designed for you to be able to edit it easily. And so a lot of times web designers and web developers have a financial incentive to not sell you a thing that would be easier for you to use. And again, I think we're probably going to get some hate mail for saying this out loud, but it's true. And I would rather only have maintenance agreements with my customers who just want the help rather than having them feel beholden to us, like they can't leave if they want to. That's not the healthy kind of relationship that I want to have with our clients.
I think that was well said, Raj. And I do want to say really quickly though, it's not like we don't use WordPress.
Absolutely.
I'd say about 10% of what we do is on WordPress, thereabouts. And so sometimes WordPress, is the right solution. But yeah, Raj is totally right. One of the greatest things about having just a simpler, more easy to use and update solution is our clients can focus on the things that really matter, and we can too. Yeah. It's like we're not the ones having to constantly update plugins and go behind the scenes and make sure things aren't getting broken, things aren't getting hacked because of security breaches, et cetera. We can just focus on the messaging and the actual design and how things look and feel and sound, which is what we would rather be doing anyways.
Yeah, unless your WordPress developer is doing the hosting themselves, like literally have servers in their house or use virtual servers on the cloud somewhere, then when you call them because your website's down, they're just turning around and calling WP Engine customer service the same way that you would. And so it's just, there's a middleman there, and it's we're going to get yelled at for exposing part of our own industry, but there are times when you should do it. Like it's, just like with anything where, if you want your real estate agent to negotiate the sale of your house or the purchase of your house because they're the experts and they make it work and it's legal and they fill out all the right forms and all, like that stuff's great. So there are times when WordPress is the right choice, but if it's not for you, then don't feel like that's your only option. Okay. Moving on then to so number one was it's easy to use and update. There's obviously a lot that's kind of packed into that. Okay. The second thing that we love about Squarespace, I'm going to let you do this one because it's about the
Raj.
looks.
The sites are just beautiful and work really, really well. And they're totally customizable.
Yes.
So as we kind of already hinted before, there's been a lot of changes in Squarespace over the years. We were using it back when it wasn't quite as customizable. And we had to really kind of make Squarespace work for us and work for our clients a little bit more. A huge difference that changed a couple years ago is back in the old Squarespace, you had to start with a different theme. And these themes, they were really kind of built on kind of different architecture. So it really mattered which theme you started with because not all of the themes had the same features. So you might start with a certain theme and be like, hey, I was able to add this thing to my last Squarespace site. Where did that go? Where did that go? And you're digging through the settings and it's like, oh no, you started with the wrong theme and then switching anyways, more than you guys needed to know. But all that to say, this is why I think Squarespace started getting a lot of a bad rap from designers is that you felt like you were being stuck in a box in a little square space in a sense. And you weren't able to do what you wanted to do, which is just design in a really visual way. And so when everything switched to Squarespace 7.1 a couple years ago, now it's all on the same architecture. Every site, you can start with a template or a theme if you want to, or you can completely start from scratch, which is what we do for our clients, and just build it out how you want. And it's so visual. Like it's now built on this whole new framework called Fluid Engine. and you literally are able to design like you would in a design program like Photoshop back in the day, or Illustrator, or nowadays XD, Figma, designer words. But the point is that you're not limited. You're able to have things overlap and move, and they have so many more design tools. It's just an absolute joy as a designer to design. And so when you're hearing your designer, your agency mention Squarespace to you, and you're like, wait a second, I don't want some, templated thing.
Yeah.
Just know that that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is just as fully customizable. And for those things that, where we want to go even beyond what Fluid Engine can do, there is custom code that we can get into as well. And we do. We customize, the play buttons on a lot of our websites. We customize a lot of different things to really dial them in the way that we want to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I could go on forever on that one. That is the one I'm so excited about.
And, another little dirty secret of our industry is that a lot of WordPress sites are built on themes anyway.
Shh. Raj, you're not supposed to say that, but yes.
There's a theme builder called Divi that a lot of people use. And so if you ever hear from a developer or a designer that it's like, well, we do WordPress because it's totally customizable. It's like, well, yes, but anything that you can put code into is more or less fully customizable. In Squarespace, you can affect the code. So, and like Ben was saying, even just the design software of it now is fully customizable. So that's a big misnomer. And I honestly, if somebody's trying to sell you a WordPress site, ask if they're using a theme. Doesn't mean you shouldn't buy it, because if they're doing that so they can save you 80% of the cost of doing a completely custom site with a developer and all that, then that's fine. And if you want to use the WordPress plugins, want to be on that platform because that's what you're comfortable with, and you don't mind it being on a theme, that's totally great. But a huge portion of WordPress sites are on themes anyway, and then they're just customized like you would with graphics and photos and that kind of stuff. And so there's not really a big debate there anymore, even though people pretend like there is.
Yeah.
Another couple of things that are worth mentioning in the design and function part of Squarespace is that Squarespace is really responsive for mobile. It's built in that way. In fact, if you are logged in your site, your Squarespace site, there's these little icons at the top to switch between desktop view, mobile view, and that allows you to to see how it's going to appear on different screens, and then you can move stuff around based off of which screen it's on. And again, this is a thing that Google deprioritizes sites that are not mobile friendly. And so, by the way, if your site is not mobile friendly, whether it's built on Squarespace or WordPress or custom code or whatever, that is a big deal. In fact, that's why we don't like some out-of-the-box website builders like Wix and Weebly. Traditionally, in the past, they have been really hit or miss when it comes to the different sizes of websites, what's called responsiveness. And I, to be honest, it's been a while since I've used them, and maybe they've improved. But basically, when I run across a Wix or Weebly site, I can typically tell, especially just by changing the size of my window, if it's behaving as smoothly as a WordPress site or a Squarespace site.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing to look out for. Webflow is actually a really great platform. And I wouldn't be surprised if, in 5 years we're doing a similar episode and saying, hey, why we're switching. But at the same time, Squarespace keeps evolving and keeps pushing the product. There's cool stuff like even text animations and that kind of stuff now that they're allowing that I think that Webflow and Squarespace are both just really great choices, and we have a fair amount of expertise in Squarespace, and I think it's a great choice for most people.
Yeah. One thing I'll say on that mobile front is that in the olden times of Squarespace, where I think they were getting more of a bad rap, it was like you could switch between the mobile and the desktop view. You had to be really careful how you built that desktop view, because it really like you couldn't really customize the mobile view easily.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh crap, I better switch where the image is on desktop. I don't like how it looks, but it's going to look better on mobile. You know, you had to kind of like do a lot of switching. And the cool thing now with this is new with Fluid Engine. So this is just in the last year, you're able to literally design your site in desktop. You see what it does on mobile, and then you can completely rearrange things, and it stays. If you don't like, how it, where that image went or how things overlapped in mobile or whatever, just switch it around, and it saves. And it's like such. I mean,
It's very cool.
If there are designers listening, and I hope there are some, like I hope this gives you, reason to give it another shot, give it another try, go play with it. It is so much fun. For you non-designers, just know that this is a great platform that can present, your company, your, product in the best possible way on the, the widest amount of platforms and devices.
Now, Ben mentioned in the previous point that, these are our one-stop shop kinds of sites. You can do your blogging, your podcasting, your you can even have an e-commerce store on your Squarespace site. I do recognize that if you're a pretty serious e-commerce brand, it might be that Shopify is a better platform for you, and that totally makes sense. There might even be a couple of other, if you're a course creator or something like that, that might be better choices for you. But I one of the things I want to point out there is that it's not just a choice between Squarespace and WordPress if you're an e-commerce brand. Again, like don't feel like, oh, if I'm going to be a serious business, I have to have a WordPress. And it's like, no, it might be that Shopify is the best spot for you if it's not Squarespace or WordPress. So just wanted to throw that out there because there are different types of businesses that we wouldn't necessarily recommend Squarespace to everybody. For most small businesses, especially service-based small businesses, definitely. But for e-commerce brands, if you also have like really robust sections where you need to do like logins and all that kind of stuff, although again, membership. Squarespace is catching up there.
That's true.
But if you need the guts of your site to go really, really deep and you need all of these plugins and integrations and that kind of stuff, then WordPress might be a better choice for you. But if you're like most small businesses and you're not spending millions every year on marketing to optimize your SEO down to, all the like nitty gritty things. And if you're, you're not, pulling in an HR recruiting software because you're recruiting hundreds of people a month, all of those things, then you probably do not need a WordPress website. And it's like buying a Ferrari that you are just going to drive to work, it's like, it's just expensive to maintain. It might really impress your coworkers in your cubicle, but I think you just need to, you need to know who you are, what you, what do you need this actually for? And there could be some specific custom kind of app type thing that reason why you need something else. And maybe it is something like Shopify. We're working on a Shopify website right now for an e-commerce brand, and that's the right solution for that thing. I guarantee you, Apple's website is probably not built on Squarespace, nor should it be. It's not necessarily for everybody, but it's for a darn lot of people, and most of our clients are on Squarespace. And here's a big reason why: they are more affordable to build in a lot of cases. If you can get somebody who can build you a WordPress for the same price as we can build you a Squarespace, then one of two things is probably happening. They are using a theme like Divi or something like that to build it as fast as we can do a Squarespace, or they're using outsourced developers overseas. I personally don't really care for that business model for a few reasons. One is the security of, I don't like to just, send stuff overseas and, work with people that I can't meet face to face. And that's, that may be an old fashioned mindset, but I don't like just sending work overseas because it's cheaper. We have an entirely American workforce working for us, and I like it that way. And it's all people that we
made in America,
that we know, we trust, that we support their lifestyle at a fair wage. And that's what I, that's how we do it. I would say maybe one other scenario that you would get of why somebody would make a WordPress site as affordably as we can make a Squarespace is if they are using it as a loss leader to make all their money on the back end. Like I talked about, there's people who sell hosting and maintenance, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they might even build your WordPress site for free because they're going to charge you $1,000 a month in hosting and maintenance. And, so everybody really, I mean, you can look up the standards for our industry about the average of what a designer makes, about the average of what a developer makes. Like those numbers don't really change. Everybody's going to make about the same amount of money. They're just going to make it in a different way. And like I said, we prefer to, pay local labor, American labor. And so that we know that we're not having anybody in like a server farm or like a coding farm overseas. Not that all situations are like that. It's just, it's hard to know without going there if it's a, legitimate operation. Or they're using themes. They're using shortcuts in some way to deliver the same product to you. But again, everybody in this industry is making roughly about the same. And so they're just doing it in whichever way. We've chosen what we think is the easiest site for you to edit. The thing that keeps you as not reliant on us as possible, and that we know that the people involved in making it are treated fairly. And so that's one reason why we love this platform is it's more affordable to build, and you should see that in the bottom line. When we make a WordPress site, it is going to be more expensive for you because we use American developers. We could use outsourced developers overseas. We just choose not to.
Yeah, and kind of related to this whole affordability thing, some of that is in how, all-encompassing one-stop shop it is. So one thing to keep in mind is WordPress, like we mentioned, WordPress is a free content management system, but it doesn't include your hosting. You have to get hosting somewhere else, right? You have to get your domain name someplace else, and you have to kind of manage all these different logins and all these different things. Whereas in Squarespace, you can buy your domain name from Squarespace, and it's hosted in Squarespace. And your website content management system is hosted in Squarespace. Like it's all, you can have everything.
And you own those things, by the way. We get asked by, because I'm pretty sure Squarespace's domains are purchased through Google domains. And so you're not held to Squarespace. If you decided you want to take your URL somewhere else, you can. Squarespace isn't holding you hostage there.
Absolutely.
So it's important to know that. We get that question a lot. So.
Yeah, but and we don't even utilize all of the services in Squarespace, but like Roger's kind of hinting at, they have, obviously blogging. They have their own email marketing platform. They just released. We haven't even tried this yet, but they have their own membership, online class interface that you can do, kind of like masterclass, all built in. They've obviously had e-commerce for a while, and it's getting better and better. They're always improving these things. Our podcast is published through Squarespace. You can do that. It's kind of crazy, how much stuff. And so again, we're talking about, it being more affordable. It's these are all things that you could be farming out to different places. It's just all included in your Squarespace, hosting fee.
Which by the way, is about $200 a year. A year.
Yeah.
Not a month.
It's crazy.
And so, when you swipe your credit card for your Squarespace site, about $200 a year.
Right. So there's a lot you can do with that. And like we've already kind of alluded to, for example, we don't use Squarespace email marketing for our company. We use HubSpot, right? Because that works better for us. We did our own research, blah, 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 but it might be fine for you, or someone I know a local artist who has a Squarespace website that she built herself, and I helped her a little bit on the side. But she uses their email marketing, and it works perfect for her, and it has all the right tools for her. And there's built-in analytics and all this stuff. So there's a lot of things there. They may not individually, each of those services may not be the very, very best or robust in the world. And if you're a huge company, you just need certain types of insights or features. Yeah, there might be other platforms for you. but you do have access to this one, you know? So if you're doing nothing and you're like, I need to start blogging, you know, it's like, you got blogging, you know,
exactly.
exactly. You know, I should launch a podcast. Like you can do that here.
And we've even used some of the more robust tools. Like we early in the days of our new blog, we switched between HubSpot and Squarespace. And HubSpot is significantly more expensive if you, you know, not $200 a year.
If you're into spending money.
But we ended up moving it back to Squarespace because of the customizability factor.
It's hard to say.
We just couldn't get the HubSpot thing to look the way that we wanted. And as a design and strategy firm, we knew that was important. And so we're sacrificing a little bit on the HubSpot functionality side, but we have so much more control over our own brand and platform, and that was worth it to us.
Absolutely.
So, we really could go on about this all day. It's a huge question, but last couple of things here. Number 4 is that Squarespace sites are pretty secure by nature. You know, any website is vulnerable by nature being on the internet, but if you think about what we talked about before, WordPress sites are 43% of the sites on the internet. And so like Android and Windows, they're really big targets. One of the reasons why Apple has not had the big problems with viruses and malware and that kind of stuff over the years is that, you know, like 98% of corporate machines were Windows, and it's still a huge number. And so, you know, what are you going to go after? The big companies using Windows, or are you going to go after the small creatives using Apple? Now that mix has changed a little bit in the marketplace, and there are certainly some architectural differences between the platforms. But WordPress sites, big target, a big platform, big target.
Yeah, a lot of that's because of the plugins too.
Yes,
you know, when you open up, you know, your content management system to all of these kind of third-party plugins that sometimes they expire, they need updating. I think that's a lot of times where the, you know, hacking and stuff has come in. We've had WordPress sites that have been hacked before. It's no fun. And yeah, I think that's a lot of where, you know, some of the big security risks come in with WordPress. And so, you know, again, for a lot of developers and stuff that we know that understand this world and are really on top of these things, and, you know, there's definitely great measures that you can do. And so this is not to say you have a WordPress site, you're going to get hacked and it's all going to be terrible. That's not true. And, you know, again, we do work in WordPress. We have many sites on WordPress. But Squarespace is really secure. We have not had security issues like we have with Windows. With WordPress.
So last one here is that Squarespace sites are great for most businesses under $10 million. And, you know, so I guess one thing we should just say here is like, we take our own medicine here. We have our site on Squarespace. And
you're not supposed to tell them that. No, this is for other people. Of course, ours is WordPress. No, yes, we've been on Squarespace for a while,
for many years,
for many
probably
years.
5 at least.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason for that is that there's a couple of reasons for that. But one was we got hacked on WordPress, and we were using one of the large name hosting providers out there that we thought would help keep us safe. Now, I don't even know that it was their fault.
Probably not.
It probably had a lot more to do with plugins.
There's probably some slider plugin that
Yeah. But if you're kind of the normal business owner in the 1 to 10 million space, especially 1 to 5 million space, where you don't have just buckets of cash to be constantly making sure that somebody's updating all your plugins and keeping your hosting exactly right, all those things. It's nice to be on a platform that is just built for you to be secure, and then also have all of the other options like we talked about. Blogging, you can do a little store, you can have some email marketing, all those things for like $200 a year. Yes, there's the cost of designing and putting up the site, but after that, the maintenance cost is really, really low. You can call a designer once every year, a couple of years to freshen things up for you, but your cost of ownership, I think, is going to be a lot lower. And so especially if you're a service-based business, and you're, getting consultations, scheduled, or even booking things. I booked, so we use HubSpot to book, but I've used, Squarespace actually has and again, another thing, that they own a company called Acuity, that does scheduling. So if you want to schedule your time, you can even have somebody have to pay to schedule your time. There's those free consultations or those paid consultations. For most, especially service-based businesses, small businesses, Squarespace is the right choice. It's just such a great platform. So I just want to run through those reasons again, of why you should consider it. It's easy to use and update. The sites are beautiful and they work well. They're more affordable to build in most cases. They are secure, and they're great for small businesses to build, to kind of set and forget until you update and want to write some content. And then it's easy to get in there with that what you see is what you get editor. And you don't have to worry about just about anything else.
That's right. Expiring plugins or hackers or all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you want to be able to focus on the parts of the business that you know and you love. And as an agency, we want to do the same thing. We want to be able to focus on what you're saying, how you're presenting yourself, your overall brand, your brand image. Worrying about all these other things, behind the scenes things, it's not our thing. And I know that for most of you listening, it's not yours either. And so we've just been, over the years, really impressed at how Squarespace has improved and pushed out just more and more value. And it really hasn't gotten any more expensive, it's just, but like the value has just gone up and up, and they've really, every time that I start looking over at Webflow or some other new thing coming out, I find myself realizing that, oh man, Squarespace is keeping up with those technology changes. And so we're big fans, and we're not ashamed to say that we love Squarespace, and we think you might as well.
I should probably offer a small bit of full disclosure. I own 1 share in Squarespace. So I know that's really going to sway your decision here, because if you build your website on them, I might get a third of a penny. But no, I did buy a share when they did an IPO, but just like all IPOs, I immediately lost money afterwards. So
that's what this is all about, really.
And if it'll make the difference to you, I'll sell that share in a heartbeat, because Squarespace really is the right solution for 90% of small businesses, again, especially service-based businesses between 1 and 10 million. If you need help with your website, we would love to help you. And whether you want to go with WordPress or Squarespace or anything else, again, we'd love to help you. And we love those folks in our industry who make other choices, who do use WordPress, who do use overseas developers, all those things. It's just not the way that we've chosen to do business. And we have found that Squarespace, with the way that we create it, with American labor, is a great solution for 90% of small businesses.
Yeah, I just remembered one little piece of homework I want you guys to do. So in the show notes, we've dropped a link to a blog post that we wrote a couple months ago, our top 10 Storybrand sites. And I was looking at this, and 9 of them are Squarespace. Only one of them is WordPress. I want you to click on that, look through those sites, and see if you can guess which one is WordPress. I think you'll be surprised. It's hard to tell. So.
I love playing that game on sales calls, because people say, "Oh, Squarespace isn't as custom." So I'll show them sites, and then the reaction I get the most is, "That's a Squarespace site?" Because they really are that customizable. I think that's a great homework. It's a little challenge. See if you can tell the difference between the sites. And if you can, it's probably a good thing, to be honest, because you'll be really, really impressed with what you can do on a Squarespace. No matter which platform you choose, your website is your digital front door. And it is so important to have a presence there that you love using, that you'll update often, because I know that you are trying to grow a great business or a great nonprofit. And so go update your website, love using it no matter what platform you're using. Let's grow something good together.
Thanks for joining us today on Growing a Fruitful Brand. If you found today's show helpful, don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might also enjoy it. If you'd like to work with Fruitful on a branding, website, or messaging project of your own, you can always reach out on our website, fruitful.design. So until next time, don't forget to grow something good.